The inn at Abeja, just outside of Walla Walla, is a little piece of local history. Settled by homesteaders in the 1800s, the farm fell into disrepair until the 1980s when the Milk Creek Inn opened and restoration began. Ken and Ginger Harrison purchased the property in 2000 and continue to add accommodations as well as a winery and tasting room.
So when you purchased this property, old farmhouse, what was your vision for Abeja?
I don't think it was, I didn't have a vision for Abeja at the time. I had a vision for the property.
Mm-hmm.
The property just to me was magical. And looking at the views from and the history that was encapsulated in the barns, and it sort of told a story. I think the vision emerged about how to present and create Abeja came after we lived here for a little while and could discover the magic of the whole property, the views, the history, and thought about ways to preserve it, if you will, and to in a way honor it.
Yeah.
So.
You guys started off in Portland, you and Ginger.
Yes.
How did you get into the wine industry? Well, when did you become interested in wine?
I guess like a lot of people, I got interested by drinking a little bit of wine early. And then I got the opportunity, because I was in the Portland business community, to do economic development. And that took me with some trade missions to France. So I got to know the people, and what I found was I really liked the culture. And when I came here, my vision primarily was to have this piece of property and spend time renovating it. I clearly saw that potential, but I wasn't certain I'd be around long enough to do it. And still the vision, it expands from here. There's so much more that can happen here that highlights the history and the beauty.
And speaking of so much more, what are the plans for the future? What do you see going into the next 2-3 years, even 5 years?
Well, we're currently expanding our production for the winery. That will have several things. One, it will give us a more efficient operation, and will move some of the activity away from the center of the hospitality. Just a few hundred yards. It's still on the same piece of property. So we're expanding and making more efficient, more modernizing some of the winemaking facilities. The other thing that does is it will free up the big barn, which we call the winery barn, and that's where we've made wine since the first days. It's a magical space by itself, and we'll be able to do more in there in terms of tastings or dinners. Or the other thing, we are in the early stages of permitting and designing some additional units. So we will carefully expand the hospitality availability, and by carefully I mean we want to not disturb, not overload the property with activities or with buildings.
So right now you have 9.
Yes.
And so how many are you looking to add to that?
I think that we can probably, on the property, we can add at least 10 with people hardly even knowing it's happened.
What's your favorite spot on this piece of property? If you had to pick one spot, what would it be?
It would be right here on this porch. Yeah.
On your porch?
Yeah, right here on this porch. That view is just one that's soothing. It's sort of I think it has the effect on me driving, as same as people driving in that driveway. It just you know that you're in a peaceful place. It's quiet. To me, it has a spiritual nature to it. So.
And your wife's played such a big role in making this property what it is too.
Oh, she's by far the most important role. I get to do a lot of the construction design, and exercise my passion for reusing, repurposing doors and old wood and so on. But what you see when you go into the rooms, and the combination of colors and decor and furniture and all the things that make the space feel like it's lived in, like it's live. That's all her. That's all her.
And your signature, I feel like, are the big doors that we see throughout the property?
Yeah, that's probably my, I love doors. I love old architectural pieces. Yeah, we do. I have a real passion for doors.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Abeja, it's Spanish. It means beast.
Correct.
How did the name for the winery come about?
Well, it's challenging to come up with a new name, and when we came across that, it had meaning to us because it was Spanish, but it also it brings forth an image of agriculture and natural farming, which is what we try and do. And once we learned how to pronounce it correctly and started laying it out on a label, it has a real pretty cadence, both verbally, sound-wise, as well as setting up on a label. So,
are you happy with how this has all evolved?
Oh, of course. I mean, I could never have imagined how much fun we would have, but I'd say most importantly with the people that would come into our lives. I mean, probably, if you would emphasize anything, maybe even more than the architecture and the setting, the people here enjoy being here, and they enjoy sharing it with people. We've been very fortunate to have great people. The property in a way has opened itself up as we've had time to clear and clean the property. There are views from almost any place on the property that highlight either the Blue Mountains in that direction, or the wheat field and the Palouse in this direction, or down in the trees the stream. So the property itself, I think our biggest risk was ruining what was already here and was special. And
I think you preserved it pretty well.
Thank you. Yeah.
What has been your most unique guest on the property?
Oh. Well, my most unique guest was one of our very first. We bought the place, we moved in, and the very first weekend, and it had already been booked for a wedding, and all of the stories you hear about brides or brides' mothers under pressure were played out in that with that guest, and it also determined that we quit doing weddings. That we had 2 more scheduled, which we did, but unique. She was special.
Oh,
I hope she sees this.
Yeah.
We gave her our house. She was so dissatisfied with all the little things. What we didn't know was that the prior owners, not intentionally, had left, but there was no propane, there was no gas, so they had no hot water. So it turned into now a very comical situation. At the time, it didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
Coming up, we talk to the winemakers at Abeja, a husband and wife team making world-class cab. Okay, we now made our way to the main barrel room. And what better way to talk wine? You guys are both the winemakers here, the head winemaker. And the best thing about this, I think I love, is husband and wife team. What's it like working together?
It's very fulfilling to be able to have your best friend and your most trusted advisor be your co-winemaker is a dream come true. And we're able to kind of be pillow talk consultants when we head home. So if you had to clone yourself to get more than one thing done at a time, this is better because she's got more skill sets than I could double. So
it's not true, but
It's great because it's more of a family experience. So we bring our dog to work. Our girls are here all the time. We travel together as a family now. It's great.
And how did you guys meet?
We met making wine, and that's a passion that we both had individually, and now we share it together. And here we are at Abeja under one roof from start to finish, from grapes to marketplace. And I think Amy's story is a little bit different. She caught me dancing in the cellar.
Ooh, is that true? You saw him dancing?
I did.
Caught your eye?
Well, we met at Columbia Crest. Yeah, Daniel is great at a lot of things, but he's an awesome dancer, awesome winemaker, great father and husband.
So do you guys ever have those moments where you don't agree with what you're going to do to the wine, or the flavors that you're going to add to it? I'm sure you have to have some of those moments, right?
We actually had the same mentor for winemaking, so not very often. The only thing we really have ever argued about is when to take the wine off the skins. But other than that, I think we make a great team. We have different palates and similar winemaking styles, but together I think they're great.
And Dan, with you, you went to the University of Michigan.
Michigan State University.
Michigan State University,
yeah,
sorry.
That's okay.
Just talk to me about how you got into wine.
Sure. So for me, science, or winemaking is science applied to art, and so having a scientific background, both genetically and even through my education, really allows me to have a more holistic understanding of wine. And I started brewing beer in high school and fell in love with fermentation science. I also explored distilling. I don't have the patience to sit with a barrel of bourbon for 30 years, nor do I look to brew a batch of beer every couple weeks. And for me, wine production, winemaking is kind of the best of both worlds. You have one shot at it each vintage, and each vintage is different, and it's very fulfilling. So at any given moment, you're a scientist or an artist or a janitor or an engineer, and it's different every day.
And what about you, Amy? How'd you get started?
I started off in a tasting room, fell in love with wine, went back to school, got my enology and viticulture degree, but I really wanted to be a viticulturalist. Loved being out in the vineyards, did that for a couple of years, and then needed a job, and an intern enologist position was available at Columbia Crest, so took that job and then realized, oh my God, I could be in the vineyards part of the year and then in the cellar making wine. It's just perfect.
Wonderful.
Dream job, yeah.
What are some of the added touches that you guys like to add to the wines that you make here?
We have a couple neat things that do set us apart. We have an optical sorter so that we get the best, cleanest fruit possible. We work very closely with our vineyard growers, and we also bring in more fruit than we actually bottle. So allows us to select very specific barrels for our blends.
Now for people that say want to buy the wine, you have a select few that you put out into stores for them to purchase, but you also have a select few that you keep here just to state. Explain to me more about that.
Certainly. We have a closed mailing list. We're very highly direct-to-consumer oriented brand. And in any given year, we may make between 10 and 12 wines, and of those, only 3 really go out into markets outside of the winery in the mailing list. Our Washington State Chardonnay, Columbia Valley Merlot, Columbia Valley Cabernet are available in select premium bottle shops and restaurant lists. And the rest of our wines we bottle are direct to consumer through our mailing list. So we have an estate Viognier, an estate Syrah, an estate Cabernet, an estate Chardonnay. We have an upcoming estate Cabernet Franc in small quantity coming out. Yeah.
So for someone looking to, when they, purchase the room here for the weekend, what kind of wines will they get to try?
Oh, they can try anything that's available for sure. So people that do stay at the inn are exposed to all our wines, plus our beekeeper label, which we only sell here on the property, and that is only for mailing list members. And we make a white blend and a red blend.
Anything else special that you do for the guests that come in?
I think Mary, our innkeeper, and her staff have the highest level of hospitality around. So there's a lot of special things, from the moment you drive in the front gate to the moment you walk into the small barn, which is where you would be received to check into your guests, and a pour of wine and a very intimate tasting. And I think what we do best is we have a staff that smiles, and they mean it. They walk around and you feel the energy from our grounds crew to our cellar crew to our inn staff. Yeah, we hold ourselves to a higher level of hospitality.
Yeah, and our cellar door is always open to the winery, so our guests come in, they interact with us, with the cellar crew, so it's great. We give them tours, they ask questions, it's always a lot of fun.
So looking ahead into the future, are you guys planning on experimenting with anything?
Not too much. We have a great thing going. The wines are great. We source from great vineyards, and our barrels that we choose are top notch for our wines. So
we're always evolving in the vineyard, our practices and our sources when they come from Columbia Valley vineyard sources, and so I think we're going to have more focus on estate vineyards, which is great. As I mentioned, we brought in an optical sorter for the 2016 vintage, which has really stepped up our sorting game, so to speak, and getting the highest quality berries into our fermenters.
And something that the reason Ken came up with Abeja, a main reason, is just the cab itself in this area.
Yeah, exactly. Ken's vision was to come to Walla Walla and create world-class Cabernet, and we fully support and agree with that, because Cab's king. It's something Washington State hangs its hat on, is Cabernet Sauvignon, and I would consider Cabernet the flagship of the Abeja brand and wines as well. And we're striving to be the best Cabernet producer we can be.
Okay, and talk more about this main barrel room and where all the barrels are placed at.
Certainly. So this is our big barn, or the old mule barn. So in the 1860s, a gentleman named Jacob Kibler homesteaded 10,000 acres of dryland wheat, and what is now Abeja was one of the original farms. And so Ken's vision was to take this mule barn, where they would store the mules, and turn it into a winery. And he and his vision have clearly performed. It's a really neat place to work. Our guests love it, and it's a bit of history where we can make our wines.
How does it feel to make wine in a barn like this that has such history to it?
It's amazing.
It is.
And we feel like we're creating more history every day.
Coming up, we will take a walking tour of the gorgeous property, giving you a sneak peek of what your stay would look like if you booked a room at the Inn at Abeja. So here at Abeja, besides their boutique wines, they actually have 7 luxury cottages and suites that you can stay in. So that's what makes it so unique here in Walla Walla. So we're going to pretend like we're guests, just arrived, and we're greeted by Mary.
Hi, welcome to Abeja.
Thank you so much.
And I'm offering you a glass of our 2014 Beekeeper Red, so enjoy.
Delicious. So where to next?
Well, we're going to walk you over into our tasting room, which is also our breakfast area. It's where we'll check you in and tell you about all the wonderful details of your stay.
Love the doors.
Well, this was an original barn that housed the small animals, the pigs, the cows. And we've turned it into our tasting room and our breakfast room.
Certainly has a nice feel to it. You get the fireplace going.
It is very welcoming. So we serve breakfast here each morning. It's a full breakfast, several courses. We start with a fresh squeezed orange juice, and then tomorrow's breakfast we're going to do our lemon souffle pancakes. And those are layered with lemon curd, and we're serving them with our local strawberries and applewood smoked bacon on the side. We'll start with our kind of signature egg. It's a baked egg, baked with fresh herbs and cream, and we finish it with a little truffle salt and Parmesan.
Ooh, that sounds
so good.
Tasty.
And we serve a different breakfast every morning of your stay, and we try to keep track of that so that we are not repeating things for you.
You guys have a lot of people that come in for repeats?
We do. We have people that when they're leaving, they're booking for the next year.
Anybody in the morning that just wants a glass of wine?
Well, we start wine tastings at 10:30.
10:30.
So we're ready for you.
Awesome. So from here, where do you take folks?
Well, we go in, I'll show you the accommodation.
Okay, perfect. So what do we have here beside us?
So this is our carriage house suite. We have 2 accommodations in this building. We have the locust suite on this end, the carriage house suite here. And in the center of this beautiful breezeway, we have 2 barrel rooms. We have so many great little spaces to sit and enjoy.
Just like this one coming up?
Just like this one. As you look out over here, we call this our lavender hill. And as you come in through these doors, this lavender smell just wafts up, and all of a sudden you're just relaxed, and it's pretty amazing.
Look at the stream.
You can
or the
start to
creek.
smell it right now,
Yeah,
right?
you can.
This is our locust suite. This lovely patio back here to sit and enjoy the sounds of the river. This is one of our larger suites. It has plenty of room for sitting, relaxing, spreading out on that couch and reading a book in front of the fireplace. Place for games, reading. And then if a lot of people cook here, they don't want to leave. They get here and they just want to enjoy everything that the property has to offer. So we'll bring a grill around, they'll cook up a steak and stay on the property and drink cab. And this was the original carriage house on the property. So they did store all their farm equipment in here. They, at one point, were servicing all her old cars, and they kept the detail and the records of all that service. Here on the walls, it's hard to see, but there's an oil change.
What's on this side of the property?
This is our winery, and we give you a tour of the winery if you'd like to come in and see it. You're always welcome to go up to that 3rd floor. It's probably the best view in all of Walla Walla. This one's the bunkhouse, and that's where all the farmhands stayed. I was told by somebody who was here, gosh, he was in his 80s, so he was here when he was 14. He said that 12 farmhands stayed in that little bunkhouse.
Oh, wow.
So this is the Edison house.
Nice. And like you said, this one has a little bit of a different feel.
It does.
Different decorations to it.
This was the original pump house generator building on the property. And I love this one because you feel like you're in a tree house. So from
you kind of sit up higher.
You sit up high, you can look down off the landing there and you don't see anything other than just the tops of the trees. It's really beautiful. Every accommodation has a private sitting area, and you just don't know that you have neighbors sitting close to you. Everything is so private here. So this is just for the Edison house to enjoy. This is our chicken coop, complete with chicken wire.
Yes.
So this one has a kitchen.
Oh, so cute and quaint. Do you have anybody write fun things in these books?
Oh, a lot of fun things in these books. They become like friends. All our guests come back year after year, sometimes a couple times a year.
Beverly Farms, Massachusetts, New York City, Nashville, Tennessee, Park City, Utah, Houston, Texas.
Some people like to count how many chickens they can find in this accommodation.
That's good. That's a nice little game. Do you, well, I mean, man, you have it on the...
I know. There's a lot of chickens.
Do you know how many chickens are in here?
I do not. So when the weather is fabulous, we love to serve breakfast out here and take advantage of that. So this is one of the favorite places for people to sit. It's really magical because the birds come down and they'll get little drinks of water in here.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's just so peaceful and beautiful.
And they can sit up here too if they want.
They can sit up here, yes, absolutely. But this is one of the more special places to watch the sunset.
Which, I'm trying to orient myself. Where does the sun set here?
So
It's over
this way. So depending on what time of year you're looking at this way. But the light changes, you know, dance off the vines out here, and it's just beautiful. I think the light is really what makes this place really special.
Thanks for joining us this week at Abeja for 100% Chance of Wine. Please be sure to tune in next week as we visit another local area winery. I love it.
Okay, here comes trouble.